Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rogue Media. My name is Schlerf, and today I'm going to be doing my video Thunderbolts review. I already did my written review on the day after I saw the movie. I saw the movie last Friday, May 2nd, and now I'm going to do my video review, which is going to be a longer version of the written review, basically, but still go check that review out because it's live on Rogue Media right now. For this review, I'm going to be doing a non-spoiler and a spoiler section. Those will be marked by the timestamps in the description of the video and just popping up on the video. There'll be two different sections to it. So if you have seen the movie, you can watch both. And if you haven't seen the movie, just watch the first one, go watch the movie, come back, watch the second part. Yeah. Thunderbolts, let me just real quick before we get into the actual review, let me list the synopsis and the cast. So the synopsis is ensnarled in a death trap, an unconventional team of anti-heroes, Elena Belova, Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian, Ghost, Taskmaster, and John Walker, embarks on a dangerous mission that forces them to confront the darkest corners of their past. And I guess I don't need to go through the cast, so I'll go through what I'm talking about the movie. So yeah, I saw this movie on Friday. As I said in my preview, I was really looking forward to this movie, not only because of the positive word of mouth that came out once they screened it early, to critics and fans, but just in general, I am a big fan of the team members in this team, the filmmakers behind it, and all that. Yeah, I mean, I really have nothing but positive things to say about Thunderbolts. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 star. I think it is by far one of Marvel's best post Endgame, and just honestly, just in general, is one of Marvel's best movies, I think. Um, I guess we have to start with the fact that what separates this from the rest of the MCU and what makes this really seriously unique compared to any other Marvel movie we've seen before, even before Endgame, is the exploration of complex themes, with the main one being mental health. And I don't know if the trailers and the promos really showed that this was going to be a big part of it. I mean, you heard Yelena's narration in one of the trailers and one of the clips, I think. If you know anything about Bob and Sentry, that character, you can see it. But this well and truly is an exploration of mental health, and specifically Yelena and Bob's mental health, but all the characters. We kind of get a deep look into all of the characters' minds. And as someone who has dealt, I mean, not as bad as others, but someone who has dealt with mental health and anxiety problems, this movie just felt like a big hug for anyone who has dealt with mental health problems. And it's something where it makes sense when you find out that Marvel, when they were targeting the creatives for this movie with the writer and the director, they looked at people that have worked on non-superhero, more character-driven projects. The director, Jake Schreier, is known for Beef, which is a limited series. I think they're continuing it, but it's a series. I haven't seen it, so I can't go into depth about it, but it is not at all a superhero project. Like, it's very character-driven. The writer, Joanna Callow, worked on The Bear, which is, an amazing show. I'm sure most people have seen it. Again, like a very grounded, character-driven show, which you'd think maybe wouldn't translate too much to like a big superhero crossover project, but it makes sense once you see the actual main plot of the movie, because it is about these complex themes of mental health and challenges in that, and overcoming that kind of stuff and found family. Like, this is a superhero movie. It is well into the super movie. There's action, there's superpowers, there's big fights and all that. Like, there's all the elements you have as a superhero movie, but also at the same time, it's much more than that. And for a person who maybe usually doesn't enjoy the superhero aspects of a Marvel movie, or can never really get into the Marvel movie machine and all that, this is the movie for you. Like, as far as Marvel goes, like with the non-Avengers movies, Thunderbolts is probably the one that can appeal the most to the general audience because of this fact that it is doing some deeper storytelling than just, a one-layered superhero movie. And Marvel's done plenty of movies like that. Like, there's a lot of emotional movies. Like, in my review, in my written review, I use Guardians of the Galaxy, all the movies, but Volume 3 as an example. Like, that is a genuine emotional experience, but it's for different reasons than this. Like, James Gunn is a genius and he's doing a lot of work there, but in this movie, like, it is tackling and looking at in depth into each character's psyche and the challenges that they face throughout their life. And that is just such an interesting thing to explore in a superhero movie, and it makes for a very emotional watch. If you've ever dealt with these kind of things, it's going to be very sweet to see the arc throughout this movie. But if you're somebody who's dealt with these problems, it really tackles those in a meaningful way. And as someone, like I said, not on as large a scale as others, but has dealt with these problems, I really appreciated that. The fact that I'm someone who appreciates both superhero projects and more character-driven projects. Something like uh, an Avengers movie, and I love, and then also like something like a show like The Bear, I also love. So combining those two into one movie was like super impactful for me and made it super enjoyable for me that I could still get the superhero stuff that I wanted. And you're getting fight scenes of Ghost phasing through stuff and hand-to-hand combat with Elena and that one scene at the beginning, the bunker scene that we've seen in the trailers. You get all that, but you also get serious character moments, especially towards the end. And I'm gonna have to be a bit vague on how I talk about it because a lot of the end is where that exploration happens, and it's a bit of a spoiler thing for those who don't know much about the character of Sentry. I'll talk more about it in the spoiler section, but like I said, like that is the main takeaway I have for this movie is it's doing things and exploring things that no other Marvel movie has before, and that's what separates it from a lot of stuff that Marvel has done just in general, but specifically like the post Endgame world. And I'm not one of those haters who's like Marvel's fallen off since Endgame. I'm not seeing this movie and saying Marvel's back. Like I've always been locked in, but I think this movie, with how much it feels not like a superhero movie. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying like you have to the writers and directors and Kevin Feige were like embarrassed to make a superhero movie. It's not that. It's just they're doing both and they're drawing in multiple crowds. And that's why like you have a brand here in the Thunderbolts that is, if you're a comic fan, you know about the Thunderbolts and maybe you read Thunderbolts runs, but if you are somebody who, Thunderbolts is not one of their top IPs, and I'm going to talk about this in a second more, but Thunderbolts is not one of their top IPs, compared to like the Avengers or the Fantastic Four or the X-Men, but they did such a good job getting so much out of these characters because they make you love all these characters throughout the movie. And towards the end, when we get that conclusion, you can be invested and appreciate it because you actually care about the characters, even though a lot of people, are seeing these characters for the first time, but they haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, they haven't seen Falcon Winter Soldier, or maybe they haven't even seen Black Widow or Hawkeye, like, or, those Yelena appearances. Like, they did such a good job putting you in this world and making you appreciate everything about these characters and really love them by the end. So, like I said, that's the number one is that mental health is at the forefront of this movie. That's how I led my written review, and that's kind of my number one positive out of this movie is how much in-depth storytelling they were able to do with a Marvel superhero movie. And then the next thing is the two big standouts of the ensemble cast are Florence Pugh and Lewis Pullman. Florence Pugh is something that I expected going into this. If you watched my preview video, I said that she was the number one person I was looking forward to seeing out of the whole cast. And I think Lewis Pullman was actually number two, so I guess I got that right. But yeah, it was time for Yelena to kind of have her shine and in a lead role. With the character being introduced in Black Widow in a supporting role, and then like a little bit of a cameo role in Hawkeye. Like we've seen her and stuff, and everyone's had such a positive reception to her. I mean, she's easily one of, if not the best phase or post Endgame character, like new character. That's what I mean to say. Post Endgame, in terms of like new characters they've introduced, she is easily one of the best, if not the best, after this movie. And I think her acting performance in this film is so powerful and it makes sense as like I said in the preview like Florence Pugh is one of the most talented actors in Hollywood and I would put a very good bet that in the next half decade she is winning awards or nominated for awards at big award shows like the Oscars. Like she is an incredible talent and the fact that Marvel was able to scoop her up 5 years ago and not only scoop her up and have her in Marvel movies but to have her enjoy it. I mean you hear her talking about this in the interviews. She clearly cares a lot about this character and really wants this character to be portrayed in a meaningful and impactful way on screen. And that's such a treat to have in an actor that really I mean, I know most MCU actors are like this, but there's some that are just coming like to do the role and then they forget about the character and they're not involved with the creative process. But like Florence clearly is with this character and she's just so good in this movie. I mean, dare I say this is one of the best comic book performances we've seen in a long time, maybe ever. Like she and again, a lot of it is later in the movie when she's kind of exploring that trauma and grief a little bit more. And again, I'll kind of get into the specifics and spoilers, but there's a lot of scenes towards the end where you're very much exploring her trauma and she is just like putting in like for a superhero movie, like putting in serious acting chops, and it's so impressive to see her work with all these other characters and see her kind of be the lead of this film. Like she is well and truly the lead. I don't know what the screen time would work out, but like we start and we start the point of view like she's our point of view for the movie and we start the movie with her. The first shot of the movie is her face and this is like not really a spoiler but the first shot of the movie is her face and the last shot of the movie is her face. Like we are following her throughout this whole movie and this is her emotional arc. There's a lot of emotional scenes with her and Alexi, with her and Bob. Like there's a lot of emotional scenes there that had me tearing up and if you care about this character at all, and even if maybe you didn't before this movie, you will care about Elaine after watching this movie. If you didn't before, and if you did, you will care about her even more. I just love seeing Florence play this character, and then getting into Lewis Pullman as Century. I guess this was a character that I personally knew the in-depth parts of his character because I've read certain Century runs and runs of his character, but he was literally like, if you're saying Florence was the Yelena was the main focus of this movie, he's number two. Like, you see him a lot throughout this movie, and the final conflict is a lot about his trauma, and his trauma specifically, and how the Thunderbolts can kind of come together and let him overcome that. And it was just so interesting to see them play with that side of Century that is kind of unstable, and pair it with this Thunderbolts team. And again, I talked about this before in the previous video that I made, but a lot of the concerns going into this movie was like, how are the Thunderbolts going to defeat this Superman character who's making people disappear in New York and all that? And once you see like really what his character is about and his mental capacity and how unstable he is and kind of how that plays out throughout the movie, once you see that, it makes complete sense. And honestly, it's genius that they paired it with this character. And that was something that I was expecting going into it, but the execution was perfect. Like the way they executed it, Louis Pullman was just amazing in this movie. I think I've said it before, but he's a very underrated actor, and he's not been in a lot of stuff, but he is going to be someone that we're seeing popping up definitely in Marvel a lot in the future, but hopefully in other movies as well. He was great in this movie to portray both the good and the bad side of his character, plus just like the kind of um the what's the word I'm looking for? The timid version of his character that we meet in the beginning when they're in the vault, and you kind of see it in the trailer where he's like, "Hi, I'm Bob." Like that side of the character, he can flip the switch from that to the good side of his character, where it's like the good superhero side of his character, to then the darker side of Century that we see, kind of developing throughout the movie from the manipulation from Val. And he's just so good at flipping that switch and getting us to that spot. Um, just the way he's able to pull that out. It doesn't feel I think some people thought the turn to Century was a bit rushed. The turn to the Void was a bit rushed. I disagree. I can see why people would say that, but we can see from minute one that this is an unstable guy, and they do things early on in the movie that show sides of the Void that are eking out. Again, I'm going to be a little cagey about this until I get to spoilers, but there's certain like section fragments in the first hour of the movie where we see the Void slowly come out and kind of explore certain characters, specifically Elena and John Walker. And that's just so interesting. And I don't think it's rushed in that sense. I think we know from the beginning. We can see well, we can see Val. I don't know what that was. We can see Val manipulating her or him over the course of this movie and over the course of the runtime to the heel turn at the end. And yeah, Louis Pullman just puts an amazing performance. And those two are just the main like I mean, the whole cast is great, and I'm gonna get into that next. But like those two are just amazing. I cannot wait to see them back again in Doomsday. They have unbelievable chemistry together, and I don't mean that in a romantic way, but all of their scenes with Florence Pugh and Louis Pullman, all of their scenes together, they're just putting on an acting clinic. It's so emotional, it's so powerful. From the beginning, they kind of have this like found friendship that's like kind of unexpected, and you don't know if it's going to work at first, but it really does. And by the end, you're just like, you love these two together as friends. Again, I don't mean that in a romantic way. Those two are just amazing to make together, and two amazing actors and two people that the MCU is very lucky to have in their universe. But getting into the kind of the ensemble cast in general, like I said, one of the concerns going into this movie, not for me personally, but for a lot of people, was why do we care? Why do we care about these characters that are like these misfits that were in projects that either weren't well reviewed or a lot of people didn't see? You got like someone from a Black Widow movie, which wasn't very well received and was like a straight to streaming movie basically. You got a series in Disney Plus in Falcon Winter Soldier where John Walker comes from. You've got Ant-Man and the Wasp, which like people only really saw because it was between Infinity War and Endgame, like, and it was a prequel. Like that's where Ghost came from, and like there's these characters that are very much misfits and very much not people that I think not people that the general audience really cared about going into the movie, but from what I've seen from people on Twitter that aren't huge Marvel fans and from the group that I saw it with, like I said, they get the most out of this ensemble cast and this IP in the movie. Like by the end, like I said earlier, you really do care about these characters, and I'm gonna go through a couple of them real quick and just give my thoughts, but. Um, that's just speaks to the talent of both the actors, but specifically the filmmakers, the writer and director. Like that speaks to their talent because you can bring in these characters that are from previous projects, that have ties to different characters in the interconnected universe. But you can watch this movie without having seen any of those projects. I still think you can just fall in love with this team and fall in love with these characters, and that's also a credit to the actors. I mean, I'm not going to do like a ranking like I did before, but Sebastian Stan playing Bucky, he kind of is like a little sideline in this project. Like we've kind of already gone through his trauma and grief in previous projects, and there was no need to do some serious character exploration there. But he's always a joy to watch playing this character, obviously, and a beloved MCU hero that's now, once Doomsday comes out, will have been in every phase of the MCU, and he just does a great job. He's like kind of the leader of this team, but not really. Like Elaine is kind of leader, and there kind of isn't really a leader. But like I said, it's always fun to see him play this character and his interactions with David Harbour's Alexei, Red Guardian, who we'll get into next. He's kind of just like the comedic side character in this movie. At least for the most part, like when he comes in and all that, and the limo service, and the talk with Elena in his house in the beginning, like he is the comedic side character in this movie. But still, he has some scenes with Florence Pugh's Elena that like are some of the most emotional gut punches of this movie, exploring that fatherly daughter dynamic between those two characters. And there's been some things that have been left unsaid between them that kind of come to a head later in the movie, and I'm going to talk about it in spoilers, but there's a scene between Florence Pugh and David Harbour, where both of them are just putting in, like I said, an emotional gut punch and really exploring their dynamic as father and daughter, and it's so interesting. It's so meaningful, so impactful. I really enjoyed that part of David Harbour's performance. But just add on to that, like he is hilarious in the movie. Like every moment he's on screen, just being goofy. The whole theater was laughing. He's hilarious. Again, like you're not getting much depth there, but he is hilarious. Like just a great person to play this character, and I really enjoyed him. And then I guess next I'll do John Walker. Somebody that I was just like cool from Falcon Winter Soldier. I didn't have a crazy emotional connection to him. He does a really good job because Wyatt Russell, he does a really good job because he is making you hate that character in Falcon Winter Soldier. And in this movie, like he kind of has a little bit of a redemption. Like you're still meant to hate him. And I think whenever he plays that role, he's just a bit of a doofus. That he's one of those characters where, like, with this team, under the breath, or sometimes even just saying out loud, everyone kind of just hates him, even towards the end. But it's really interesting to see they explored kind of the gap between Falcon Winter Soldier and this movie, and with one of the flashbacks in the Void, and a couple things that happen when they're all together towards the end. And I just think that Wyatt Russell does a great job of, like, you hate this guy, but you hate to love him. Like that's kind of where you're at the end of the movie. And like I said, like it is a joy to watch him play this character as well because he's really perfect for it. Just with the kind of dynamics and all the characters, and that's something that's prevalent early on in the movie. Like with their first interactions together, it's hilarious to see the dialogue and the actors bounce off each other. And yeah, like I said, like there's a mini redemption arc for John Walker. It's not fully there, but like it is. Like it's, again, you hate to love him. That's a good way to describe it. And then lastly, Hannah John Kamen as Ghost. I actually have I don't know, see it. I don't know, it's hard to see. But I have the Ghost shirt on today. Like I said in the preview episode, Ghost is a character that not only did I feel was very underutilized in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but also is just a personal favorite for me from the Thunderbolts comics. And Hannah has done a great job of bringing some actual, I tweeted this last week, but Hannah has done a great job of actually bringing emotion and depth to the character of Ghost, because as much as I love Ghost from the comics, the character of Ghost in the comics is either depicted as a male or depicted as it. Like there's not much to the actual character depth besides from the fact that he just has cool powers in the comics, and that's kind of why I like him, because I like the mysterious side a little bit, and I like the kind of I like the powers obviously like I do in the movies, but like Hannah John Kamen has done an amazing job of actually giving emotional depth to the character. We got a little bit of an Ant-Man and the Wasp, but again, I still feel it was underutilized. And I think there were a couple things that were cut out in this movie of Ava's grief, of Ghost's grief, and I think that that's something I'll touch on a little bit more later. But still, like she's a lot of fun to watch, and to be honest, like out of this whole team, she is the one with actual powers, like genuinely creative powers. The rest of them are kind of just super soldiers, and Elena's like a trained assassin. I'm not saying they're weak or anything, but like she helps them get out of a lot of situations because of her powers. And I like the new suit. I like how she's more confident in control with her powers and all that. That stuff's really interesting. And yeah, I mean, I love seeing Ghost again. And again, like and the last one is Taskmaster, and this is a Taskmaster's a character where like with her arc in this movie, I literally cannot touch on it without talking about a spoiler. Like I really can't. It was nice to see her character again. That's all I can say. Like I really can't say anything else without getting into spoilers. I apologize for that, but you know, I can't say anymore. I was happy to see the character again, but I literally can't say anything about getting into spoilers, and I will once we get later on. So I apologize for that, but that's how it is. But like just looking at the ensemble cast as a whole, again, they're so likable. The first hour of the movie is just hilarious to see them all bickering and kind of like they it's a similar what's the dynamic I'm looking for? Early on in the movie they are all bickering and they're all fighting and they're all like hating each other, but at the same time, you can tell they care about each other and they're actually happy to finally find like a group of team members. And that's something that's kind of explored with Elena and talking about how lonely she is and how much she misses her sister. That's something that's explored at kind of a minimal rate, but a little bit in this movie. Because we saw her grief in Hawkeye about Natasha dying. And it's like you can tell that all of them really need each other, and this is and that's another thing where David Harbour's scene with Elena towards the end comes into play because they all really do, and that dialogue's actually in the trailer, but they all really do need each other, and they are perfect for each other, and all they need is just to come together. As much as they hate each other, as much as they're going to bicker, and that's still going to happen in future projects in Doomsday, but like they really are this team of misfits that you learn to love, even if you don't really care about the characters going into it. Like you will learn to care about them, and it will be a thing where like coming off this movie, watching Doomsday, you are going to want to, you know, be invested in them and their future appearances. And like I said, by the end, whatever happens to them in that final conflict, it's emotional because the writers do such a good job of making you actually care about the characters throughout. So like I said, the ensemble cast is great. Kind of the last thing I have to say about the in this non-spoiler section is related to the action scenes, and that can kind of play right off the ensemble cast. The action scenes are a lot of fun. Like I said, like there's not many unique power sets at play here besides some Ghost and Sentry. And I'm not even talking about the Sentry stuff. Like that's more of a psychological thing, and less of like an action fight. Besides from the one scene that I'm just not going to spoil, but where they're all fighting, and you know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. But I really like the creative kind of choreography early on in the first scene that again we've seen in the trailer where Bob comes out like that set piece. It's really interesting to see them all fighting each other and they all have different motivations and seeing certain characters that like that's one of the things that's a joy about seeing these team up movies is seeing certain characters like fight and see how they interact with each other on both off the action side of things and within the action side of things. Like that's really interesting, and I really enjoyed the action and all the fight choreography. Seeing them fight each other at the beginning, but then slowly learn to fight together. And again, that one fight with Century, like in the middle of the movie, where they kind of just get their the crap kicked out of them. The next time we see them, they're kind of working together, and there's a very wholesome scene that is cut off by something that happens that's hilarious. But there's a very wholesome scene where they kind of finally learn to fight together as a team. Again, I'm tiptoeing around this because of spoilers, but there's a scene where they finally get to work together as a team, and you see the kind of fruits of that and how the public responds. It's very wholesome and it's a very sweet moment, and I really appreciated that. Like I said, the action scenes are creative, and they're about as creative as they could be for a team with these power sets. Besides from Ghost, like again, Ghost can phase and all that, and can do a lot of interesting things, but Bucky and Alexi are super soldiers, and Elena's a trained assassin, and John Walker is a super soldier, and um, nobody else really. That's the whole team. So yeah, like I really did appreciate the action scenes throughout in this, and yeah, I really don't have any negatives for this. There's a couple negatives that I have that will be in the next section, related to a couple decisions that were made. But yeah, I don't think I really have any negatives. The one thing I would say that prevents this from being a 5 star, I mean, it's really hard for an MCU movie to get to a 5 star for me, to be honest. The only MCU movies I've ever given a 5 star are Infinity War and Endgame, and the only way I'll probably ever get there with the Solo movie is something that has a personal connection to me. And although I have read a lot of Thunderbolt stuff and I do love a lot of these characters, they haven't. fully like I haven't been reading Thunderbolts comics my whole life. Like I just don't have the personal connection personally, so I can't fully get there to a 5 star. But like I said, um, oh no, what I was gonna say about the thing that doesn't get it to a 5 star is the pacing. The beginning is a little bit off. It's a little bit slow. They're in this one setting for a lot of it, like literally like 30 to 40 minutes. And then there's like the desert scene where they're there for a while. Like there is certain scenes where like they are in these places for an extended amount of time. That was something that didn't like throw me out of the movie, but it was something somebody I saw with identify, and I realized like, yeah, that's true. The pacing was a little bit off. And then the other thing that is this small thing, this the small thing about the Century heel turn being a little bit quick. I kind of see it. I don't totally see it, but I can get that. That's like a tiny concern that would prevent it from being like a perfect movie. I guess I didn't talk about Val at all. There's nothing really to say about her. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was fun in this role, as I've been saying this whole time, and there's nothing really more to say about her, to be honest. Yeah, I mean she was cool. I'm not really including her in the team because she doesn't get as much screen time, but her manipulation with Century was interesting and all that. And there's a scene she has with Bob in like the exact middle of the movie that is she's putting in a really good acting performance, and seeing her respond to Bob's kind of psyche is interesting. Can't say much more than that, but yeah, like in terms of non-spoiler stuff, like I said, it's just the exploration of these complex themes, Florence Pugh and Louis Pullman, the ensemble cast, the creativity in the fight scenes, and it's just a very emotionally deep movie and something that again will invoke emotion from people. I know that for sure. And it's just such a fun time. Like there's just such a fun dynamic with this team. And again, I'm very excited to see them again in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars because we know that is confirmed. And that is something that I didn't know if I'd be invested in this team as much as I am after watching this movie. Like I am so invested in seeing this team again and in their future appearances, especially Elena and Ghost and a couple of my personal favorites. But like the whole cast is great, but like Florence Pugh and Louis Pullman are amazing. The fight creativity is awesome. Like I'm just gonna keep repeating myself now, but yeah, that's probably it for my non-spoiler part of it. This movie's a lot of fun, and if you have not seen this yet and you're watching this, please go see this movie. Because it's one of those not guaranteed hits for Marvel, regardless of how successful it is, because of the name brand not being this huge IP like Fantastic Four probably will be in a couple months, but or like an X-Men movie or an Avengers movie, but. This movie's a lot of fun. So before I get into spoilers, I do want to say, like, if you're stopping here, please go watch this movie and come back and watch the spoiler section. But yeah, here's your warning right here. I'm going to get into spoilers in a second. This won't be a super long section, but here's your warning to click off now. Go watch the movie, come back, watch the section again. So yeah, spoilers. Should I start with the post-credit scene? I'll just start with the ending. Obviously, we've seen now with some of the promo for this movie. The main promo for this movie, in terms of the title, was the asterisk. And that was kind of like, what is that? What's to do with that? I personally knew going into the movie what the asterisk was going to be, just because I saw a leak like a while back. It's been out there. If you wanted to find it, you could. And then getting closer to the movie, the people that got screened early also spoiled it for everybody. But now Marvel is like genuinely like ripping off the Thunderbolts, the Thunderbolts name and their promo posters and all that, and shifting it to New Avengers, which is how the movie ended with Val bringing the whole team out and revealing them as the New Avengers to the world. I didn't know that's how it was going to play out. That's really interesting. I love how the movie kind of ends with that. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I think it's a good little change. Um, I'd be curious to see like where the Thunderbolts reign is going to go. Like if there's going to be a more darker Thunderbolts, maybe formed by someone like Zemo or Fisk or Val, even like if that's going to kind of happen, or the government. Like they kind of are the government's Avengers now. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, how is this an Avengers team? It's like a super soldier, and we don't care about this team." But like a lot of those people just haven't seen the movie, so go watch the movie. But that's the whole point. Like they explore that with the media responding to the announcement, and then the credits showing the newspapers and stuff, like who were the new Avengers, and then the post credit scene, the beginning of it explores it as well. And yeah, I like it. I like the name change. Like I said, I'm very interested to see their next appearance, and I do think it's a bit weird that they've been like removing the Thunderbolts name on all the promos. Like, if you haven't seen the movie, you're just getting that spoiled, and I hope people can go into the movie not knowing that the new Avengers thing is happening. But so that's a bit weird. It doesn't bother me as much as it has to people on Twitter and stuff. But yeah, and then talking about the post credit scene, well, there's the first credit scene, which is like the kind of gag where Alexei finds the new Avengers in the Wheaties box. That was funny, just like a cute gag. And I said a little bit earlier, but like the actual credits themselves before the mid credit scene, you have like the regular credits after that, but the actual credits were like they're showing pictures of like who are the new Avengers, do we trust these people? And there's like a couple kind of what's the word for it? Kind of like, yeah, it's like newspaper clippings, and they put them in certain like famous art and all that, and that like a couple like Florence Pugh with the "You Can Do It," like the iconic thing. That was like so really interesting and really cool art, and I really appreciated that part of it. But getting in the post credit scene, and before I get into the actual kind of meat of it, um, you know, those who know me know I'm the biggest Fantastic Four fan in the world. I'm literally staring at a Fantastic Four poster off screen right now. They're my favorite superheroes, and they're my favorite superhero team. And Fantastic Four First Steps, the movie, has been like my most anticipated movie forever. The first time we're actually getting a proper adaptation of these characters on screen. So obviously, I was a bit euphoric seeing the Fantastic Four spaceship at the end. It was very exciting. They kind of like teased us a little bit because we don't get to see the team, we just see the spaceship, and this post-credit scene takes place clearly after the Fantastic Four movie. So we know that however the movie does end, they will be on a course to our 616 main timeline, because the Fantastic Four takes place in another universe. And there's the whole thing of like people saying that, oh, they spoiled the Fantastic Four movie. Like, no, they didn't. You have no idea how the movie ends. People were like, oh, I guess Galactus won. How do you know? There's no way to tell. Maybe they just saw an incursion with our 616 with Reed Richards researching the multiverse. And this is like a random example, but like Reed Richards at the end of First Steps after they neutralize Galactus maybe is just, this is again all theory. This is not like a leak or anything. Maybe he just was looking into the multiverse and saw that there's this huge crisis in space and there's universes colliding, and our main universe where the new Avengers and the Avengers and everyone else is like our main MCU timeline is about to experience another world colliding into it, and they have to come and warn them or help them, or maybe they learn something about Doom and they have to come warn them about that. Like, I think it's very much more. I mean, first off, like I think it's very much more likely that they win in this movie and they don't lose to Galactus, because it just would be like a weird dynamic. Like they're building this whole family thing, and how they're like the only protectors of the world, and then they can't protect it. Like it brings in an interesting narrative, but I just don't know if that's what they're gonna do. But anyway, like I don't know. We'll see when the movie comes out. But the reality is like you see the spaceship coming to Earth. So like, all right, the movie is going to end with them coming to our main timeline and leading right into Avengers Doomsday. How does that happen? Go watch the movie in 3 months on July 25th. That's genius marketing. Like they are literally like all these people that are saying, "Oh, we know they spoiled the movie." You're gonna go see the movie because you want to know what happened, like why they are coming to our 616. So like that's just a silly claim. I think it's silly. I think it's like a stupid claim. It doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, so that was exciting, to see everything tie together. And we know for a fact that the Russos. It was announced they filmed this post-credit scene. Like, they filmed it like weeks before this movie came out. Thunderbolts came out. So yeah, that's interesting, and it looked great. Like it looked really good, and I liked the whole aesthetic, like getting into the actual Thunderbolts slash New Avengers side of it. I like the new suits. The one thing was like Ava's hair was a bit off. Like I don't, that was like a bit weird. Like they were clearly like going for something new there, and all right, but that was a bit weird. But I like Bucky's new look. Looks amazing. Like it looks very comic accurate. I like the new hair. I like the little star on the side. Like Bucky's look looks great. Yelena's outfit looks pretty similar, but it still looks good. I like that they kept the Ghost outfit besides from the hair, because I love the new Ghost outfit. Um, John Walker's new outfits have been interesting. I don't know about the hat. I don't know how I feel about it. I know it's more comic accurate. I don't mind it, but it's just a bit odd. I don't know. It works with him because, like, I guarantee the Thunderbolts are going to make fun of him for wearing that hat. I guarantee we're going to get that dynamic next time we see them in Doomsday. So that's interesting. And then they really set up like a very interesting thing, and it becomes kind of a gag with Lexi coming in with the Avengers with a Z name and all that. But like, setting up that dynamic where there's some friction between Sam Wilson's Avengers team and Bucky's, I wouldn't claim as leader, but like the new Avengers. Like there's a dynamic there between Bucky and Sam that is kind of echoing a little bit of the Civil War dynamic that we got in the phase three of the MCU. Like we got that prior to Infinity War. Like it is showing that we have all these different teams that are kind of split up. And I have a feeling that they're going to need to come together to face this multiversal conflict, which is going to be obviously Doctor Doom and maybe the X-Men and all that. So that sets up a really interesting dynamic, and I really hope we get to see that play out at the beginning of Doomsday. The whole copyright thing's kind of a joke, and again, it's a gag, but like that actual narrative of the fact that Sam and Bucky are kind of against each other right now, and our superheroes of the Earth, not counting the Fantastic Four because they're not technically there yet, like our superheroes of the Earth will probably not be prepared to fight this multiverse of conflict because they're already fighting against each other internally. And maybe that's going to be the excuse me. Maybe that's going to be the Fantastic Four's role in this movie. Is like they're going to come and be like, guys, you need to come together because there's this huge conflict coming, and we need to be ready for it. There's this crazy guy, Doctor Doom, who thinks he's the savior of the multiverse, and we need to band together to fight him. And I'm sure they will by the end of the movie. But like that'll really propose an interesting thing. And a lot of people were saying that this really does make it feel like the MCU is interconnected again. I totally agree with that. I think that this really plays into the fact that like these two movies are going to do a lot of heavy lifting for Doomsday's box office because people that enjoy this Thunderbolts movie and enjoy the team dynamic and then watch Fantastic Four, enjoy that team dynamic, both of those movies are directly tying into Doomsday. So like they did this for a reason. They announced the Thunderbolts cast members to be in Doomsday for a reason. Like I guess it spoils the movie, but like again, you don't know how they get to that point. And they know that like if you know that these characters are going to feature in Doomsday, you're going to watch the Thunderbolts movie to see how that's going to connect. And they didn't leave it up in the air. They're like, this is how it's going to connect. We got this new Avengers team. There's some friction with Sam Wilson's Avengers team that we know he said he was going to form because at the end of Captain America on Brave New World. And you have this Fantastic Four team going in that the new Avengers identified. They don't know who are these people with a four in the side of their ship. Like they have no idea. Hearing that theme was just so. I knew it from the second I heard the first note of that theme, the new Fantastic Four theme, that it was going to be them. So that was really exciting. But yeah, we know they're going to turn Doomsday, and I like the interconnectedness there. So that was a really cool post-credit scene. So definitely one of my favorites in the MCU, just to see everything be tied together, see the new looks for the Thunderbolts, the funny moment with Alexi, and kind of the Bucky and Yelena. Clearly, there's a bit of like a both of them want to be team leader dynamic there, which is interesting. And then yeah, I mean, Fantastic Four come to the MCU, and we're gonna have to watch the movie in July 25th and see kind of what the reason for them coming to the universe is. Again, I have my theories, and I'll talk about that when we get closer to the actual Fantastic Four movie. But yeah, it's really interesting, and so that's kind of the post credit stuff and the big spoiler stuff. A couple of things that I mentioned in the just to wrap up here, a couple of things that I mentioned in my non spoiler part that I couldn't talk about there. The Taskmaster thing is a bit frustrating. I'm going to be honest. Because my thing about it is, and if you watch my preview, it's funny to go back on it because I was just completely wrong. I said that they wouldn't kill Taskmaster for no reason. They kind of did. I mean, the director said the point of it was that they wanted to kind of show that the stakes are high from the beginning and that these characters can die at any moment. But that wasn't really prevalent there because like we knew all the characters were returning in Doomsday except for Taskmaster. So like you kind of piece things together there. And I always thought there was a chance she would die, but like to have it like that, where like she literally has one line of dialogue and Ghost just shoots her in the head, like that was crazy. And like it didn't affect my rating. Like I want to be clear about that. Like I did not dock my rating because of this. Because honestly, like it honestly didn't dock my rating because at first I was like, what? And then I kind of forgot about it. Like I literally forgot about it until the movie ended, and I was like, oh wait, Taskmaster was in this. Like it's so funny that she's in all the promo for no reason. But I thought it was kind of silly. Like, if you're gonna do that, just don't have her in this movie. Like, explore her in a different project. I know they cut things out with Taskmaster, and there was rumors that she was gonna not rumors, like it's been confirmed now that she was gonna bond with Ghost over her trauma. And there was gonna be like a memory loss thing where she kept fighting John over the course of the movie. Like, that's interesting. You can read up on this online. I don't want to like steal the thunder of the interviews that other people have gotten, but there was that. The Taskmaster thing I just thought was kind of like, what's the point? Why even have her in this movie? You don't need to have her in a big role, but just don't even put her in it. There was no reason for her to be in this story, like realistically, no narrative reason. And I thought they might explore like the grief that Ava had over killing her, and then also explore Yelena's connection to her. But like, possessing that one dialogue once they kind of get out of that mountain area, there's like one bit of back and forth between Yelena and Ava, and then they never addressed again. So I thought that was kind of silly. Similar along those lines, they didn't really go. I said earlier that I was appreciative that Ghost got to appear again, and I do think they did a lot with her character here, but still. I think they could have gotten to Ava's trauma a lot more, honestly. We heard that there was a cut plot with Lawrence Fishburne's character from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and apparently he was going to have cancer and she's going to be dealing with that. And we heard that her scene in the Void would have been from her childhood. Like, 5 extra minutes of Ghost backstory wouldn't have hurt. maybe. I think the Lawrence Fishburne thing might have been hard because I think that was in a way prior draft of the movie, and it maybe wouldn't have made sense besides him again like avoid flashback. But I feel like they could have kept it. And again, that's not really something that's really doctor rating. It might stop me from getting to a 5 star, but that was like some of the complaints I've seen with people off the heels of this movie. Most people genuinely enjoy it, but they were saying, why didn't we get explanation for Ava and Taskmaster and Red Guardian and Walker? I don't get the Walker and Red Guardian thing because like Walker, we got that scene in the Void. We got to hear about his family leaving him from Bucky. We got to see him in the Void at the end. Like we had scenes with John exploring his stuff. And then Alexei, like you see it through his connection with Elena. Like you definitely get an exploration of him and how there was the one scene again that I keep referencing about Elena and Lexi like on the street after she like roasts the whole team, which was crazy by the way. Um that scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And he says, like, I thought you didn't want me, did Elena? And she says that she did. And he's like, I see that now. And that's such a great moment. But that is exploring his character. Like, we see his character being explored there. So I didn't find that as a problem. But the Ava thing's a bit weird. Like, I think they could have had a scene of Ava in the Void. Like, if you're having a scene of Val in the Void, like, you can have a scene of Ava in the Void. Like, come on. Like, she's one of our main characters. Like, that frustrated me a little bit. And I did realize that watching the movie. But it wasn't like a huge concern or drawback to me. I'm not going to act like that again prevented me from rating this a 5 star. It did somewhat, but like still, I gave this movie 4.5. I still loved it. Um, Let's see. Is there anything else I need to talk about in terms of spoilers? Again, the thing that I kept teasing in that earlier scene was all the scenes in the void, kind of in the last 30 minutes of the movie, and seeing um, the one version of Bob kind of fighting off the other version of the void version of, so you got Bob and then you got the void. Like that's kind of what you have in this movie. And that was such a powerful scene to see him like beating up his other version and Elaine is saying that's what he wants. And then at the end, all he needs is a hug. All he needed was just a hug from his friends, and that was so wholesome, so beautiful. I could get choked up even talking about it. Just a powerful and beautiful scene, and such an interesting exploration of mental health, like this whole movie was. Another narrative thing that was really cool and powerful is the beginning of the movie. You see Elena breathing in, and we see her eyes closed, and she breathes in. Yeah, breathes. I'm trying to like word this the right way. She breathes in at the beginning of the movie, and that's kind of how we start with her. And at the end of the movie, again, we're on her face, and she closes her eyes and she breathes out. And that just shows her full character arc throughout this movie, and that she's relieved to have this found family. And she has a relationship with her father now. She has a relationship with all these other heroes. I thought that was such a like it's something I didn't notice until I kind of thought about it more, but like that's just so cool. I love that, and I love her character in this movie. She's so well written, and to the point where like I honestly think I'm more invested and care more about her than I ever did about Natasha. I'm not trying to bring down Natasha right now. Like I like her as a character, but the way she's written, especially in this movie, is just so good. And that specifically at the shot at the beginning, the shot at the end. Again, we start with her like and jump right into her trauma, and then we end with her being able to overcome her trauma, and that's just such an interesting narrative decision and so powerful, just so well shot, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like I said, all the scenes in the Void are good, and the scenes with Florence and Lewis Pullman in the Void are just so amazing. Like such an interesting character dynamic between the two of them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to say. I mean, just to wrap up, like again, this movie was so good, so enjoyable, and I really enjoyed everything about this movie. And there's a couple things that I have concerns and drawbacks about, but it's not anything serious. So yeah, go see Thunderbolts for sure if you haven't seen it already. Again, even if you're not a Marvel fan, like I think this is a movie that will be as enticing to a non-Marvel fan as any other movie, at least post Endgame. And if you want to kind of get the scoop on what's happening in Avengers Doomsday, this will be the first movie that sets it up. So I mean, other stuff has as well, but like the first real connection because the post-credit scene was literally directed by the Russos and it looks great. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. This will probably be the end of my Thunderbolts content from now, besides some short form content from this actual review. But if anything more relevant comes up between now and Doomsday, then I will obviously talk about that. I have a feeling we'll be talking a lot more about this movie as the months go on. It's been really a treat to see fans really respond well to this movie and like as much as I do and as much as I know a lot of people watching did. So that's been a lot of fun to see. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Go see Thunderbolts, and I will see you later in the week for either another YouTube video or a review. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be on the road to Ironheart next month, late next month, and then the big one, Fantastic Four First Steps on July 25th. So thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys then.